Hey guys, just want to do a video in response to Majority's table topics, which is, what's your spirit console? Now my answer should be pretty obvious by now, as if you look in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you'll notice a watermark. That's my Cynical Gaming Blog logo, and if you look at it closely enough, you'll notice that the logo itself is that of a Gamecube, and that's my spirit console. Now, why is it my spirit console? Well, it's not because I have the most Gamecube games in my collection, because my Gamecube collection is pretty small, really, compared to most people's Gamecube collection, and I haven't really played that many Gamecube games. If anything, I'd say one of my biggest collections would probably be my PS2 collection, as I've played a lot more PS2 games than I have Gamecube games. Still, I do consider my Gamecube to be the spirit gaming console of choice, because the Gamecube means so much to me in a lot of ways. I've had so much fun experiencing the Gamecube and what it has to offer, in the games especially, because the games on the Gamecube, like, not every game is the best game ever on the Gamecube, but here's the thing, I think the Gamecube has a lot of consistency in terms of quality when it comes to its releases. I mean, yeah, there are a few stinkers on the Gamecube, but not as much as there are on other consoles. The Gamecube just has so many amazing games. I mean, the exclusives especially, like, I mean, come on, it's the console that has F-Zero GX on it, people. That game is phenomenal. That game is my second favourite game of all time. Now, yes, the PS2 has my favourite game of all time, Valkyrie Profile 2, but the Gamecube has a lot of great games too, and that's the thing, like, you'd think that I would pick the PS2 because it has my favourite game of all time on it. And the PS2 does have a lot of great games on it too. But the GameCube, as I say, has that consistency, and also the GameCube's meaningful to me because of the multiplayer experience. Like, for starters, the fact that you can plug in 4 controllers into the system, whereas on the PS2 you had to buy an add-on to be able to plug 4 controllers in, and yeah, I never got that, but I do have 4 controller ports on my Gamecube, like everybody does, so yeah, that's the thing, it just came with it. So you can play 4-player, local, couch, multiplayer, and that was amazing. I mean, granted, there were very few times where I had more than 2 people in the room, but whenever we were playing multiplayer, we would always go for the Gamecube. Like, me and my friends, you know, we all love the Gamecube. I mean, one of my friends, he never owned the Gamecube for the longest time, but ever since he knew me, he eventually picked one up, and yeah, he absolutely loved it. And part of the reason why he did was just simply because he enjoyed the experiences playing on the Gamecube with me. And yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, it really just goes to show just how amazing this console was. It brought me and my friends together, and yeah, it was really great for that reason alone. But what games on the Gamecube really brought us together were Smash Bros. Melee. Like, that game is so important to me specifically, because if it wasn't for that game, I would have never gotten into games like F-Zero, Kirby, you know, or Star Fox. You know, I got into those games through Super Smash Bros. Melee, so it is one of the most important games of my life. You know, I played the hell out of that game, like, more than I probably should have played. But yeah, like, I really did enjoy playing that game, particularly with friends, because it was always a blast. You know, it was just silly nonsense, and yeah, I never got tired of it. I mean, like, yeah, sure, you've got the more modern Smash Bros. Games, but I just never really had any interest in the more modern ones. Like, Brawl kinda just burnt me out of the Smash Bros. Games, to be honest. You know, all of my Smash Bros. Memories will always be with Melee, and there's no real reason for that. I do think that Brawl improved a lot of things from Melee, but Melee just, you know, all the memories are with that game. So yeah, the Smash Bros. Melee, you know, we all loved that game. You know, that was the main game that we had to play together when we played on the Gamecube. But there were other games like Kirby Air Ride. That game was really amazing. Like, you'd never think it was possible for Kirby to have a racing game that would surpass Mario Kart. But it did. You know, there is a Kirby racer that's better than all the Mario Kart games, and it's Kirby Air Ride. Like, what an amazing game. Like, you think of Kirby and a racing game, you just think it's going to be like this cheap Mario Kart knockoff, but no, it's not. It's its own thing. In fact, I'd say it's closer to that of F-Zero GX than it is to Mario Kart. But you have this open world that you can explore, and you can just drive around, and it feels like GTA in a way. And, like, you'd never expect that from such a game, but it's in it, and for its time, that was pretty amazing. And when the time runs out, you pretty much have to race or do an event against everyone else who was roaming in the city, collecting all the power-ups and making their machines stronger, so that you can have a final showdown with those people. And it's just so much fun, you know? It's just silly nonsense. And of course there's other modes, there's Air Ride and Top Ride, so you know, there's no shortage of things to do in that game, and there's also in-game achievements to unlock stuff, so there's plenty of playtime in that game. So yeah, that's another game that I would definitely recommend on the GameCube, and it's the game that got me into the Kirby series. I mean, I played Kirby Air Ride before I played any of the other Kirby games, and yeah, it is a shame that Kirby never got a GameCube platformer. It nearly did, and I remember seeing the trailer for Kirby on the GameCube, and I was so hyped for that, but unfortunately it got cancelled. However, they later released Kirby Return to Dreamland on the Wii, and well, yeah, that game was a lot of fun, but like I say, I wish the original GameCube release came out, because that looked so amazing. I was so hyped for that back then. But yeah, there are other games. I mean, of course there's Mario Kart Double Dash, which, you know, it wasn't as good as F-Zero GX and Kirby Air Ride. I mean, like, here's the thing. F-Zero GX has so much content, so much attention to detail, you know? It's so intense because of its speed and its dangerous courses. You know, you always have to pay attention to the screen at all times, because one mistake can fuck you, you know? And there's so many things to do, like, you know, story mode, and there's stuff to unlock in story mode, you know? All of the freaking pilots have their own backstory, and they have ending movies for you to unlock by doing the Grand Prix with every single racer, and you had to learn each of their machines, and it was so satisfying, you know? And obviously you have Kirby Air Ride with the open world, and Top Ride, which was different. Mario Kart Double Dash just felt conventional, and yeah, that was why it really couldn't match the other two games, but it certainly tried. And even though I said it was conventional, it wasn't completely conventional, because it is the only Mario Kart game to actually allow you to play co-op with two people in the same kart, because there's two people in the karts. That's why it's called Double Dash, and that made it interesting, and they needed to make it interesting to make it stand out from all the other amazing racing games on the GameCube, like F-Zero GX and Kirby Air Ride. That was its thing, and it really goes to show just how important it is to have that competition between Mario Kart and F-Zero, which you just don't have anymore. And that's why ever since Mario Kart Double Dash, ever since, you know, the Wii came out, there hasn't been a Mario Kart game that has been as good as Double Dash, because it hasn't had the competition of F-Zero GX and Kirby Air Ride. That's why ever since then it's just been just like one person in a kart, and it's just been as conventional as you can get. Double Dash actually dared to try something new, and it was awesome, you know? But I'd still go for F-Zero GX and Kirby Air Ride myself, though I would definitely have to say that Mario Kart Double Dash was still fun to play, and I do have memories with it. I mean, some of my friends would argue they'd rather play Mario Kart Double Dash over Kirby Air Ride and F-Zero GX, and, you know, I wouldn't blame them for it, but we enjoyed both games, you know, both Mario Kart Double Dash and Kirby Air Ride, though I will have to say that my friends didn't enjoy F-Zero GX that much because, well, the skill gap, you know, they weren't the ones that were doing Chapter 7 on very hard mode. I was, so I naturally built the skills needed to perform well in that game, which they hadn't managed to develop, so they were struggling to keep up, and yeah, that's understandable. And to be honest, when you're playing with other people with a skill gap, it's not really as fun, you know. I like everybody to be I like an even playing field when I play multiplayer games because it's all about the fun. If I'm dominating the other player or vice versa, it doesn't feel fair, and I know the feeling because it's the same if they're dominating me. I don't like that either. I like a constant back and forth, and with Kirby Air Ride and Mario Kart Double Dash, we could get that, and that's what made those games, the go-to multiplayer games, whereas F-Zero GX, that was more of a single-player experience for me, although we did play a bit of multiplayer sometimes with that game, but yeah, as I say, that's mostly about the single player to me because, of the skill gap. But those aren't the only games on the Gamecube that I really liked. As I say, there's also Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. I went back to playing that game after many years of not being able to finish it because I lost my copy of the game, and holy shit, I was blown away. Like, that was the best game I played in 2019, without a doubt. And it wasn't even released in 2019, which says a lot about modern gaming, but we've already covered that. But yeah, that game is just so wholesome. That's what that game is, It's a game that anyone can play and enjoy. It doesn't matter if you're not good at role-playing games, or you're not a big fan of Mario. It doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Because the game just draws you in with its silliness and just how crazy the world is. Like, the reason why I told the button mappers to do a map out of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is just because of how creative they were with the world, especially compared to that of Paper Mario 1 on the Nintendo 64. They took it to the next level. Like, some of the locations in that game and the, you could say stages or chapters were just amazing. Like, they were all, so unique compared to that of other Mario games. I mean, for example, Chapter 3 had you going to, this island in the sky that had an arena in it, and it was like a freaking wrestling story, which was pretty epic. There was nothing quite like Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. It really is a unique RPG experience, even if the combat itself is a typical turn-based RPG. And the thing about it is that it uses quick time events in the game, and usually I wouldn't like that, but I think the reason why Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door stands out to me is just simply because of how meaningful each bit of damage is. Like, when you do 1 damage, that's a lot of damage, You're not dealing with massive numbers, You're dealing with, 1 damage, 2 damage, 3 damage, Each point of damage is so meaningful, and it makes the game super tight, and that's what I love about it, If you take 1 damage, it can kill you, It can do a lot to you, whereas if you take 1 damage in a normal role-playing game, it's just it doesn't feel like you've been hit. It feels like you've just been, scratched. In this game, it really does feel like a hit. It is impactful, and I really like that. I really appreciate that. And also the fact that, unlike Paper Mario on Nintendo 64, you can actually grind in this game, which was a big deal as well. I mean, you can't talk about role-playing games, though, without bringing up Baten Kaitos. That game is one of the most unique games I've ever played in my life. That game is a complete acid trip, especially when you get to Mirror. It really is just a weird game. That's the best way to describe it. It is the most unusual game I've ever played in my life. There's just nothing like Baten Kaitos, It is a unique experience that you'll never see ever again. It's just a crazy game with so many crazy ideas and a crazy universe and just a crazy story with a crazy plot twist. It's just nuts, and that's why I love it, because of just how crazy and unique it is. That and the fact that it's also got an amazing musical score by Motoi Sakuraba, and it's got some really nice pre-rendered backgrounds in it as well. The game is what I like to call the younger sibling to Valkyrie Profile 2 in many ways. And as I say, the combat system with the cards, that's unlike any other combat system I've ever seen. And while it isn't perfect, it's certainly satisfying. Oh, it is. I do wish that it had AoE moves. That's one thing that the game kind of lacks. But other than that, I really can't complain. It's a lot of fun. It really keeps you on your toes, but at the same time, you have to really concentrate and make sure you're building that combo. And it's basically a game of, taking risks in the sense that you want to build this combo, but you don't really have all the cards yet, but if you use this card, you might draw the next card to build the combo even further. The bigger the risk you take, the more potential your attack has and the more damage you can deal, and it's really satisfying just doing that. And of course you have different cards that do different things. Some of them do finishing moves, for example, and yeah, you can only use them at the end of the move. So, you know, if you use the finisher, you deal more damage, but you risk ending your turn early. And yeah, you have to really balance that, and it's really awesome for that reason alone. But yeah, as I say, you've also got Pokemon Colosseum, my first ever GameCube game. You know, I got that with Pokemon Channel. Pokemon Colosseum is the reason why I got the GameCube. You know, I got my GameCube at the same time as I got my PS2, which I got them both on my birthday, and it was amazing. Like, that was probably the best birthday present I ever got, because just getting two consoles at once. But the thing is, when I got those consoles, like, I didn't ask for a PS2, I just got it, and I was amazed that I didn't manage to get both consoles. But the moment I got both consoles, I went straight for the GameCube. I didn't touch my PS2 for ages because I was so engrossed in Pokemon Colosseum on the GameCube and Pokemon Channel. That's my guilty pleasure, people. That is a guilty pleasure of mine, definitely. You know, I mean, looking back on it, it probably isn't much of a game, but, you know, as a kid, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, there's also another game that means a lot to me, which is kind of a divisive one. A lot of people don't like this game, but some people do like this game, and that's Star Fox Assault. This one's a controversial one, and I think the reason why it's controversial is because of the legacy Star Fox 64 left behind, you know. People will always remember the cast of characters in Star Fox 64, you know, and all the quotes like, do a barrel roll, and just all of that. And, you know, Star Fox Assault had a lot to live up to, but in my opinion, Star Fox Assault was the perfect swan song to the series, you know, the perfect sequel. You couldn't have gotten a better sequel, you know. It was perfect to me. But the thing about it is that it was perfect in the sense that it was as good as it was going to get, you know. You weren't going to get another Star Fox 64. That already happened. So you had to do something different. And Star Fox Assault did. And that's what made it so awesome. It was a cinematic experience of epic proportion. The music was epic, you know. Flying that Owling was as good as ever, you know. The Owling sections, they were not the sections that people criticised. They are just as good as they were in Star Fox 64. So at the end of the day, I still think Star Fox Assault is a solid game because it maintains what Star Fox 64 brought to the table. If anything, its biggest flaws lie in the things that it added to the game. Not necessarily just all range mode sections, rather the on foot sections, because the controls were not the best. And this is one of the drawbacks of the GameCube rather than Star Fox Assault, because the GameCube has a controller that's not really built around first-person shooters, and that's one of its drawbacks, and I will have to admit that. But it does excel in games like racing games, and that's why I consider it to be the racing game console, definitely. But yeah, like, moving around in Star Fox Assault wasn't the easiest thing to do. Like, moving up and down, you had to hold, like, the R button to move up and down to shoot vertically, so yeah. I mean, in retrospect, it might have been better if it was like Doom, where it was just like you automatically shoot vertically and shoot things that are in front of you. You know what I mean? Regardless of how high or low they are. But at the end of the day, it had verticality, and you kind of had to deal with that, though. Usually I would just shoot directly in front. I wouldn't look up or down because it was just too much effort. And yeah, that was its drawback, really. But still, I didn't mind these sections. I still didn't mind them. I mean, yeah, they were rough, but you could still have fun with them. And, you know, it was nice to actually be able to get out of the Owling and just explore the map. I mean, some of those maps in Star Fox Assault were amazing. Like, the Corneria map was huge. Like, way bigger than it needed to be. I mean, if you play in multiplayer, you can actually go in that map on multiplayer, and it was massive, you know? You could just freely roam the map, and it was awesome. Speaking of the multiplayer, I did play multiplayer with a friend, and it's definitely yet another one of the great multiplayer games on the GameCube, because it's still a lot of fun to play. I would say Star Fox Assault is the game out of all the GameCube games that I wish had online multiplayer, because it would have really benefited from it, because I just look forward to friends coming so that we could play Star Fox Assault multiplayer, you know. It was a treat to play that game's multiplayer. You know, you got to play as all the characters, and, you know, it had unique maps as well, like Zone S, for example, which was a map that you could unlock, you know. It just felt like the multiplayer was like a game in itself, you know. The more you play, the more you unlock and all that lot, you know. It was awesome, and yeah, like I say, the game was rough in some ways, but I still think it was the perfect sequel because it really paid homage to the Star Fox legacy, and it wasn't like Command, which completely fucked up the series, you know. This was a game that had a lot of love in it, and it was really polished, you know. The way the Arwing animates and how it moves around is just, it just feels so good, you know. It is still a gorgeous game to look at to this day, you know. It's a really gorgeous looking game. Like, it looks like a current gen game to me, you know. And yeah, as I say, I don't own too many more games on the GameCube, unfortunately. As I say, I do own Pokemon XD, which is the sequel to Pokemon Colosseum. I also own Mario Power Tennis, which I played a lot of, but unfortunately I lost all my data for that, just like Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. I remember enjoying that game, but, you know, I haven't played that game in years, people. Like, maybe I need to go back to it. I also remember playing Mario Party 4. That was another game that I played quite a lot of with friends, you know. It's Mario Party, you know, what do you expect? Of course you're going to play it with friends. Donkey Konga's another game that I got, which was my first rhythm game, and yeah, one of my only rhythm games, because I only own two, and that's Donkey Konga and Gitaru Man, and I'm terrible at both of them. I remember having to use cheats just to beat the game and unlock all the shit. Yeah, I'll admit that, I actually use cheats. I suck at rhythm games, but I did have fun playing it. And there's some interesting songs on offer on Donkey Konga as well. You even have Queen and stuff, and some video game remixes that you can play. It's a pretty fun game. There's also WarioWare Inc. Mega Party games, which me and my friends enjoyed playing as well, you know, which is just basically a game filled with mini games that were just weird and odd. And finally, there's two other games which are both multi-platform games that I own. Well, there's another one as well that I own. I have Extreme G3, which, you know, that's a multi-platform game, and yeah, it's a bit like F-Zero, but it's hard, very hard, and it's not as fun as F-Zero GX. And then there's Cell Damage, which I really like. Cell Damage. It's another fun multiplayer game to play with friends, and, you know, it's like a Twisted Metal kind of game in the way that you get weapons and you just basically kill people. It's a vehicle combat game, and it's a really fun one. Definitely worth playing if you have a GameCube or an Xbox, and if you live in the PAL regions PS2. And finally, I have Time Splitters 2, which, yeah, it controls as well as you'd expect for a first-person shooter on the GameCube. But I still have fun with it, even though the story mission in Neo Tokyo is a pain in the ass and I can never beat it, because it's a stealth section, and I fucking hate forced stealth sections. But, yeah. And finally, there's Lost Kingdoms, which, you know, well, actually, there's another one as well, and there's Star Fox Adventures, a Zelda clone, so yeah, naturally it's not really my thing, but I do have that game, and Lost Kingdoms, I just can't get into it. It's an interesting idea, an interesting concept, but the execution leaves much to be desired. I know Phoenix really enjoys it, so yeah, maybe I need to give it another try sometime, but yeah, I'm not too big on it. But yeah, that's my entire GameCube collection right there, people. So I haven't played that many GameCube games, but I can definitely say I have more positive things to say about the GameCube than negative. So yeah, it's definitely my favourite console, without a doubt. And I highly recommend people try out GameCube games on Dolphin if you have to, or Bad GameCube itself, or even a Wii, because the Wii can play GameCube games. I use my Wii to play GameCube games. My GameCube's in a box, and the reason for that isn't because I hate the GameCube, it's in a box because, well, if my Wii can play GameCube games, why do I need to have my GameCube out, you know? Why get the GameCube dusty when I can just keep my Wii out, you know? It just means I'd have to dust another console, and yeah, it also means I have to fit another console on my desk, and that's not an easy thing to do, so yeah. But anyways, that's my answer to Majority's question, and I hope he's satisfied with it, and I hope you check out his channel, because he does some amazing content, and he's always interacting with the community. So yeah, check him out, and I'll see you all later.